The first schools in America in the New England colonies had a tremendous emphasis on religion. Despite their religious emphasis, however, early schools in the colonies had the practical function of making people sufficiently literate so that they could conduct business and take care of their daily affairs. As time passed, there was less focus on religion, but it did remain a part of the school day until modern times. Prayer was once a part of beginning the day in American public schools, along with the Pledge of Allegiance. Bible study was seen as character development. With Christianity being the predominant religion of our founding fathers, as well as the majority of the country, these practices were just accepted. Eventually, religion's place in public schools was called into question. From the colonial era to the present, religions and religious beliefs have played a significant role in the political life of the United States. Religion has been at the heart of some of the best and some of the worst movements in American history. The guiding principles that the framers intended to govern the relationship between religion and politics are set forth in Article 6, Paragraph 3 of the Constitution, the No Religious Test Clause. It states, "The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States." The First Amendment to the United States Constitution prohibits the making of any law respecting an establishment of religion or impeding the free exercise of religion. There are two provisions concerning religion: the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause. The Establishment Clause prohibits the government from establishing a religion. The Free Exercise Clause protects citizens' right to practice their religion as they please, so long as the practice doesn't conflict with public morals or governmental interest. Thomas Jefferson introduced the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom in 1779, which became law in 1786. It separated Virginia government from any established church and asserted that the religious opinions of men were not the business of the government. The second President of the United States, John Adams, though a devout follower of Christianity, was also an advocate for religious liberty. In the Treaty of Tripoli, signed in 1796, Article 11 states, "As the government of the United States of America is not, in any sense, founded on the Christian religion." The expression separation of church and state can be traced to an 1802 letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote to a group of men affiliated with the Danbury Baptist Association of Connecticut. In this letter, he stated that religion was a matter which lies solely between man and his God, and that government should not have any influence over opinions. Therefore, he asserted, "I contemplate with sovereign reverence that act of the whole American people which declared that their legislature should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state." John Dewey was the most significant educational thinker of his era, and many would argue of the 20th century. As a philosopher, social reformer, and educator, he changed fundamental approaches to teaching and learning. His ideas about education sprang from a philosophy of pragmatism and were central to the progressive movement in schooling. Dewey believed that organized religion was largely a divisive force. He was categorical in his rejection of religious education in the public schools. He expressed his view on religious education early in his career. He believed that public schools had a religious mission. In Dewey's terms, it was to create social unity out of the diversity of ethnic and religious groups that comprised the new American. With religion and public schools, what it really amounts to is being fair. Unlike private schools, public school districts are bound by the Constitution, which forces them into a delicate balance. Board members and school administrators are required to allow personal acts of religious faith, but to simultaneously avoid any appearance that religion, or any particular religion, enjoys special status. The U.S. Supreme Court has the final word in resolving disputes about what the Constitution permits or forbids. There have been many landmark Supreme Court cases regarding religion in school. A few of them are McCollum v. Board of Education, 1948. In 1940, different religious groups in Champaign, Illinois, offered voluntary classes in religion to public school students in schools during the school day. Students not interested in participating in religious instruction were provided alternative classes. The court ruled that this program was a violation of the separation of church and state and declared it was illegal. Religious instruction cannot take place in a public school setting. Engel versus Vitale. In 1958, New York State's Board of Regents wrote and authorized a voluntary, non-denominational prayer that could be recited by students at the beginning of each school day. A group of parents that included Stephen Engel objected to the prayer and sued the school board president, William Vitale. On June 25, 1962, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that voluntary prayer in public schools violated the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment prohibition of a state establishment of religion. At the time, this was an unpopular decision. Many believed not allowing voluntary prayer in schools was denying children the opportunity of sharing in the spiritual heritage of our nation. Abington School District versus Shemp, 1963. This case struck down a Pennsylvania statute that required Bible reading at the start of the school day. Religion in schools promotes discrimination. With the ever-increasing influx of immigrants to this country comes diversity in culture, religion, and ethnicity, as well as values, morals, and beliefs. These individual characteristics are regarded as personal and deserving of respect. With this wide range of diversity, it becomes impossible to fairly represent the enormous range of variation with one prayer. Religion in schools narrows thinking. Religion is a personal endeavor. Expecting public schools to enforce religion as a singular truth cannot embody the variety of beliefs that our country has come to represent. Due to non-specific nature, religion in schools cannot fulfill religious function. With the enormous diversity in both religion and denominations of those religions, it would be difficult, if not impossible, to please and acknowledge all of them. Therefore, it could not possibly serve the function of aligning spiritual beliefs across the student body. Morality does not come from God. Supporters of religion in public schools often claim that religion provides a moral compass for students. However, according to Mark Hauser, a psychology professor at Harvard, problems abound for the view that morality comes from God. There are no moral principles shared by all religions, but held by no agnostics or atheists. This observation leads to a second one. Atheists and agnostics do not behave less morally than religious believers, even if their virtuous acts are mediated by different principles. They often have as strong and sound a sense of right and wrong as anyone, including involvement in movements to abolish slavery and contributing relief efforts associated with human suffering. The converse is also true. Religion has led people to commit a long litany of horrendous crimes, from God's command to Moses to slaughter the Midianites, men, women, boys, and non-virginal girls, through the Crusades, the Inquisition, the 30 Years' War, innumerable conflicts between Sunni and Shiite Muslims, and terrorists who blow themselves up in the confident belief that they are going straight to paradise. In a moral sense study of over 1,500 subjects from around the world, it was determined that there were no statistically significant differences between subjects with or without religious backgrounds. This study and others like it begin to provide empirical support for the idea that, like other psychological faculties of the mind, we are endowed with a moral faculty that guides our intuitive judgments of right and wrong. There needs to be a clear separation between church and state, where there is no coercion in religious matters, no expectation to support a religion against one's will, and religious liberty encompasses all religions.
The United States Constitution does not state in so many words that there is a separation of church and state. The first part of the First Amendment to the Constitution states, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof." Therefore, it is more accurate to say that the Constitution promotes freedom of religion and prohibits the federal government from inhibiting its citizens' ability to worship as they wish. As previously mentioned, the First Amendment to the Constitution has two clauses which govern religion in this country: the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause. The basis for these clauses is that the government is not allowed to establish a state religion, and that each person is allowed to freely practice his or her religion without state interference. The Supreme Court, however, has misinterpreted what this amendment stands for when it pertains to religion in the schools. Essentially, the Constitution declares that the state and its agents, aka public schools, teachers, and administrators, should remain neutral towards religion. This means not supporting or advocating any particular religion or belief system. However, the Constitution is not stating that religion should be ignored entirely. Remaining neutral does not require completely extrapolating religion from the curriculum and avoiding the subject completely. The Constitution promotes freedom of religion, but not freedom from religion. Warren Nord, in a 1994 issue of the BYU Journal of Public Law, stated, "Through our educational system, a secular mentality is nurtured, which is indifferent at best, but often hostile, in fact, to religious ways of making sense of the world." End quote. By completely avoiding religion in the curriculum and other areas of the school setting, the students are receiving an unfair dosage of the hidden curriculum. The hidden message is that religion is a bad thing and that it is not important enough to include in one's education. With the Free Exercise Clause, prayer in public schools should not be a concern. Individual prayer is merely an individual expression of one's own religion. Whether it is Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or any other type of prayer, as long as it comes from a student and is not being forced onto another, it is permissible by the United States Constitution. In no way is prayer in schools enabling the government to establish a state religion. However, keeping students from expressing their religious beliefs is an infringement on their constitutional right to freely exercise their faith. One major positive of including religion in public education is that it has the ability to foster a sense of harmony among students. We live in a very diverse country, or a melting pot, as the United States has often been referred. In our schools, we have children from many different backgrounds, cultures, religions, etc. Teachers are encouraged to be open-minded when dealing with diverse classrooms and sensitive to a variety of cultures. Should this not include religion as well? Students can be quick to judge another person based on individual differences, since we are often leery of what is unlike ourselves. Teaching religion in schools, however, has the potential to eradicate some of the distance between cultures and work towards religious tolerance and harmony. In a 2009 article entitled Teaching Religion in America's Public Schools, A Necessary Disruption, Passay and Willox stated, "A well-planned effort may lead to a stronger society, one in which religious differences are understood, appreciated, and even celebrated. The alternative is further fraying of the bonds that hold the country together. Although the topic of religion can be disruptive, both in society at large and in schools, we need to talk about it in responsible ways. Teachers can be leaders in demonstrating how to do it well." End quote. Thus, as the article stated, teachers can work to promote religious unity and tolerance by presenting all religions in an objective manner. In learning about one another's religious beliefs, students will become more accepting of those who are different. Teaching religion in this broad and all-encompassing fashion will help children learn to embrace differences instead of passing judgment. In a 2007 article in the Education Digest, Carrie Kilman claimed, "If faith-based intolerance is ever to be confronted, some educators say schools are exactly the place religion should be addressed." End quote. Religious intolerance is a very sad but true part of our society. After the 9/11 terrorist attacks, many Muslims and people of Middle Eastern descent who neither were involved in nor approved of the 9/11 tragedy have been unfairly targeted because of intolerance, prejudice, and occasionally sheer ignorance. By teaching religion in schools, educators can begin to erase the ignorance of the unknown and the misunderstood world religions. Through lessons on the many diverse religions, the intolerance and prejudice often associated with that type of ignorance can be alleviated.
Religion in schools can be influential in improving student morality. Schools today are faced with lots of challenges in various forms. These issues include teen pregnancy, school violence, drug use, etc. It is a common belief that religions are inherently about morality. Morality is a facet of many religions because religion serves as a moral compass for individuals. Religious organizations often detail what actions are right according to the faith and what is wrong. The Ten Commandments would be an example of this. Since morality and religion are so closely related, it makes sense that by incorporating religion into schools, morality would also be integrated. In a 2012 issue of the Annual Review of Psychology, Paul Bloom wrote, "One possibility emphasizes the fact that religions make explicit moral claims that their followers accept. People believe these claims because, implicitly or explicitly, they trust the sources. They accept them on faith." End quote. Any religion provides the guidelines for how they expect their followers or believers to behave. Religion and morality go hand in hand. Therefore, it is logical that increasing the amount of religion in schools will also increase the morality of the students.
After much research, we came to the conclusion that religion in schools is appropriate when introduced as an academic study, where it can be used to understand context of history or literature, and when an unbiased educator is sure not to include or exclude information that would influence or offend students' beliefs. We also found that morality is intrinsic in humans, with or without religious backgrounds. Mark Hauser from Harvard University says, "Insights into the changing moral landscape have not come from religion, but from careful reflection on humanity and what we consider a life well lived. In this respect, it's important for us to be aware of the universal set of moral intuitions, so that we can reflect on them, and if we choose, act contrary to them. We can do this without blasphemy, because it is our own nature, not God, that is the source of our species' morality."
We would like to conclude our presentation with a final quote from Charles Haynes, the director of the Religious Freedom Education Project. Haynes stated, "Now that America has expanded from the largely Protestant pluralism of the 17th century to a nation of some 3,000 religious groups, it is more vital than ever that every citizen understand the appropriate role of religion in public life and affirm the constitutional guarantees of religious liberty or freedom of conscience for people of all faiths and none."